pressure. Full court press, got you crying in the press.
Welcome to the Spiel Sports Talk Show, the hottest sports talk show on Twitch. It's your boy Sal. It's a Muslim. Good evening, everyone. We have a jam-packed episode today. We're going to talk a little bit about the MLB playoffs going into the World Series. We're going to talk about the NFL and the things that have been going on in that league. It's been very exciting. And then we're also going to talk about NBA opening night. At the end of the night, you'll get what you always get, those waiver wonders and the spiel from all of us panelists. And speaking of our panelists, let's go ahead and introduce everyone. How's everyone doing? Randy, how you doing out there in Jersey?
Yes, sir. Hey, man. Say, man, what's going on? We got another night of the Spiel Sports Talk Show. Happy to be here with my brothers Quai and Sal. Just giving you this goodness, talking about all the games that we see going on, a little bit of the culture that's injected in between, and storylines from our perspective.
Yeah, for sure. No, I definitely always appreciate everyone's perspective here. Coming from all over the country, we got to have the West Side represent too, from all the way from Arizona. Lotus Jones himself. Quay, how you doing, man?
It's always a good time with the boys. When we link up for the Spiel Talk Show, the greatest talk show on the planet. Whether you have been here from the beginning or you are a new listener, new watcher, it's always a great time. I have a good time giving you guys the waiver wonders, one of my favorite segments, and yeah. I had a good day, and it's about to end really nicely.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's gonna be super nice. I'm so excited to talk sports with everyone here. And let's kind of get into it here. Um, Over the past couple of days, the MLB playoffs have come to a conclusion in their conference championship round. The LA Dodgers and the Toronto Blue Jays are going to be going to the World Series. The Toronto Blue Jays got there through an exciting game against the Mariners where Springer hits a late home run in the seventh inning to put them up. They were down 3-1 to Seattle and ended up winning the game 4-3. And the Dodgers, with a historic performance from Shohei Ohtani, 3 home runs and 10 strikeouts during that game. Let's take a look over at the clip there.
The GOAT.
He's the chosen one. And it's just
NLCS.
beautiful to see a talent succeed on the level that he
For
has.
the LCS, and there goes Ohtani.
Seriously, I mean,
Shohei.
what can't he do, honestly?
Yeah, to have all that pressure, the weight of your country, and like be prospected to be that great and actually be that great. I mean, we're talking like LeBron levels of living up to the hype.
No, seriously.
Especially if he keeps this going. I'm so excited to see what he can do.
No, me too. Like you, you don't tend to see this. Like this is one of those. And not saying that there aren't great hitters, obviously, out like in the game right now. I think this is probably the golden era when it comes to sluggers out here. Like guys can hit.
Oh.
But looking at like everything that Shohei does, like this is one of those truly once in a generation type talent. And to your point, the pressure that's also on his back just because being where he's from, being from Japan and having, the entire country like pushing for you to be successful. And then you're here in America, in MLB, and you are arguably the best player in the sport, If not, he's clearly top three. Like if we were to make a Mount Rushmore, clearly in it. I don't think there's any debate about that. So yeah, it's gonna be very exciting. Seeing them, and I mean, the Dodgers. I feel like people can hate the Dodgers because it's LA. People don't tend to like LA sports because they always win. Maybe it's because they have all the money. Maybe it's because of their location, destination. But I think it's always good for sports when you have those big cities in there. And every once in a while, the small market also makes a draw. But I think for something like baseball, when you have these bigger markets in, it's always nice.
Yeah. Quay, I mean, we've been to a couple of those Mariners games out there. I mean, how were you feeling, watching a game? We got to watch it with one of our friends, and just to tie it back to Shohei, I mean, he was out in Japan, and all of a sudden there was like a lot of security, and there was like a huge escort of cars and stuff all around like a certain area, and turns out Shohei Ohtani was over there. It was a really good time. Shouts to our boy Hunt. But Quay, how are you feeling there watching a Mariners game live? Seeing them up and only a couple innings away from going to World Series and everything getting flipped, topsy turvy. How? Tell me a little bit how you're feeling there.
I mean, we were kind of talking about it. Like I think we had asked at I think it was a couple of hits right before the three run home run. Um, literally think we were talking about, do we need a pitching change? Just because it just looked a little shaky. It seemed as though like they're just getting this momentum, and all it really does take is that one hit, regardless if it would have been a home run. Just that one hit that would have hit perfectly for them to just start to gain momentum. So let's say he doesn't even get the home run, but obviously, like he hits it far center field, far left field, whatever, and drops down perfectly. No one can get to it easily. There could be a run, starts to string momentum, right? But I felt like you felt it starting to shift. It was the craziest feeling ever, where you're like, man, I feel like Toronto's about to get this. I think they're about to somehow get this, and you see Springer up there, and it's just like,
Like he knew.
if there's any guy to do it, it's about to be him. And like you said, there's just a certain confidence. It's the moment he stepped on the plate, and you just knew he was about to eat that ball. And I feel like you felt everyone who was a Mariners fan, whether they were at the game, whether they were in Seattle, you just knew that all the life was sucked out of the city, out of the fans, and trying to come back. They were only even down one, but just trying to come back when they had all the momentum. It was going to be tough. It was going to be very tough, and it was sad to see. Um, for Mariners fans, like you said, we've been to a couple. I knew one of the ex-player, met his wife and everything through an old relationship, and so I've been in the box and everything too. So if I were to say, like, if I had another team that I was a fan of in terms of baseball, it's definitely the Mariners outside the Pirates. So it's kind of sad to see, for the city, but I think they have the talent to get back, as long as, they pay the money, because in baseball, money pays, money talks. And it's exciting for Toronto. Again, it's like you have the whole country of Japan with Shohei. Now it's like you have the whole country of Canada, behind their Blue Jays. So this will be a fun World Series.
Yeah, predictions for this World Series matchup that we've got coming up between the Blue Jays and the Dodgers. How's everyone feeling walking into that?
Maybe we wait
Six
for
to six to seven games
I think we wait for
next week.
Steve.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
so
see.
we'll get Scuba Steve in here. Our baseball expert. We're just a bunch of we'll wait for his input, and yeah, I think we can all give our predictions there. That'd be a lot of fun. But
Cool.
yeah, I mean, it was crazy because I think Mariners, like I said, Mariners were up 3-1, and as Quay was saying, the Mariners pitcher looked like it was just starting to break. 2 runners on base. This man spring. I mean, like I think there's a shot on X where it's just like you see his face and like you could tell like he knew he was about to crush this thing and be
He was
clutch.
ready. Yeah, he was
Apparently,
ready.
he has 23 career postseason home runs, third most in MLB history. And he was out, the World Series MVP with the Astros. So, it was a clutch moment for a clutch player. But let's move on over to the NFL and talk about some of our favorite teams. We'll start off with those Pittsburgh Steelers. This weekend, they're going up against the Packers after a very, very disappointing loss against the Cincinnati Bengals. Um, the Bengals looked like a better team than had played all season long. They had a crazy battle. I think we're talking about Battle of the Unks with Joe Flacco and Aaron Rodgers. Jamar Chase
Unction.
went crazy, 16 catches, 161 yards, and a touchdown. T. Higgins ate as well. From the Steelers offense, we saw some great performances too. Jalen Warren had over 100 rushing yards. Pat Freiermuth has the crazy, 68-yard catch to go ahead, which could have been one of the most iconic plays in Steelers history if the result went the other way. At the end of the day, the Bengals went all the way down the field. A lot of criticism of the defensive coordinator, a lot of criticism of the head coach, Mike Tomlin, over the past week. But Quay, as our Steelers expert here, what are your thoughts about what happened with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and how will that fare in terms of the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers' revenge game against the Packers on Sunday Night Football?
Well, Joe Flacco does it again. We'll just say that. Shout out to
Tomlin.
all of my Ravens fans out there who love Joe Flacco still. It's He's been beating us for a long time. Somehow knows what to do to beat us. Knows what it takes to beat us. But congratulations. We'll start out with that to the Bengals and Joe Flacco. Just coming prepared, coming ready. Down 10-0 early on, and they kind of hung in there and did what they needed to do. So I will definitely give them credit where credit is due. Was able to run on the Steelers defense when they haven't been able to run all season. So that was, again, credit to them. Credit to their offense really clicking ever since Joe Burrow went down. They've had issues. Jake Browning's not the guy, and Jake Browning's not the guy, and Joe Flacco here came in and really shows that he can maybe turn this season around for them. So again, credit where credit is due. Now, in terms of how the Steelers played out there, very frustrating. I think it was one of those things where you look at the defense, you see who was brought in, and you realize, okay, this is why we made the defense the way that we did. These corners, the secondary, really, really good, can match up with anyone. And I'm not saying there weren't plays where maybe guys got beat just because, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are, two of the best in the league. Definitely one of the best duos, top 5 probably in the league for sure. But it seemed as though this was more of a scheme issue. As much as I had frustrations with that defense, I can't fully blame the individual players. At times, it looked as though guys didn't know where they were supposed to be. Guys looked like, they were lined up in the secondary 15 yards back because they were maybe scared. Maybe they were told to be that far back against Lex Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. However, 15 yards, there was a few times where Jamar Chase would just do like a quick 5-yard out, get the ball and they will turn up field a little bit and maybe get the first down because of the yards after catch. So it's like, okay, what are we doing? I get you don't want to get beat deep, but maybe we do more of a man scheme coverage, since safety help over the top, do something to at least take Jamar Chase out the game. The guy had, to your point, 16 catches, 161 yards, 23 targets. Which means the ball, the ball's going to him, and we gave them enough of a sliver and enough space to always look his way. Um, that is not a player issue at the end of the day. That's more of a scheme issue. That's more of a coaching thing. And yes, I can say that Jalen Ramsey got torched by Jamar Chase. I can say T. Higgins also made plays too. But I will say there were weird calls with that too, because they would call defensive pass interference, but then you hear analysts and commentators talk like, yeah, they were both kind of hand fighting, hand checking, but then there's a flag on the defense when it's like, well, if they were both hand checking, hand fighting, then that means there shouldn't be a flag, and there's penalties. Not that it really did too much outside of one play. Still, again, it's one of those frustrating things. So I don't know where we go from here in terms of who gets talked to, who needs to switch up what, whether that is Tomlin taking over more of the play calling, whether that's Terrell Austin kind of turning things around and tightening up that defense. It's a healthy defense, and 3 times this year we've given up 30 plus points with over 400 yards of total offense. And Steeler defense, regardless of names on it, do not give up yards like that. I mean, we can talk about 2014, 2015. We had the likes of like a Antoine Valentino Blake as our corner. We still weren't having games where we gave up 400 plus yards or 30-point games like that. So with a star-studded defense like this, I don't care about people saying, "Oh, this is an older defense." These guys are still playing at a high level. It's unacceptable for this defense to be giving up points and yards like that. So I don't know who is to blame. I don't know where fixing needs to start, but there needs to be some fixing about that, because, again, that was very unacceptable. However, the one bright spot for sure is Aaron Rodgers. I've been talking about him every single week during the show. Aaron Rodgers is the reason why the Steelers offense has been very steady and the best that it's been since the Big Ben era. It's not always sexy. This was probably one of the sexiest nights the offense looked that Thursday night. Even the go-ahead touchdown, for all intents and purposes, Aaron Rodgers didn't lose the game. Sure, you could say he threw 2 picks. I only count one. The other one was just a great play by the corner. Very lucky. You can make an argument maybe his hand touched out of bounds before the knee. Doesn't really matter. Lucky interception, but again, brought us back, scored a touchdown, and our defense couldn't stop the cold, couldn't stop a runny nose. So again, shout out to those Bengals for doing what they needed to do. Steelers defense needs to figure it out, whether that's Tomlin sitting these guys down and sending Terrell Austin down and fixing it. But man, Aaron Rodgers, it's nice having him. It's kind of sad it's going to be his last season. I hope if somehow the Steelers are close, or even, one piece or just a game away from winning a Super Bowl, I would hope and wish that maybe he would come back for like one more year. But if this is the final year, it's been a fun 8 weeks seeing Aaron Rodgers as the quarterback.
Well, I mean, it's going to lead up to this game, Sunday Night Football at Acrisure against his former team, the Packers. I mean, Randy, what do you think here about Old Man Rodgers and his revenge game here? What do you think the type of the feelings he's going through, going to play this team that means a lot to him? He probably doesn't have any animosity. It's the type of team he probably knows every employee, from the ball boy to equipment manager to all sorts of people who worked with that organization. So I'm sure that organization means a lot. But what do you think is going through Aaron Rodgers' head, and what do you expect from him this weekend?
I mean, to me, I don't ever paint Aaron Rodgers as the type of character who is above being petty. So I think he's actually looking to return to Green Bay and let them know, like, and anytime he's gonna be across them on the lines of football. There's a part of him, despite how amicably he's going to speak about how things ended in Green Bay in the media, there's a part of him that probably feels like, you know what, they didn't do enough to keep me and they didn't think that I could still be here. So I want to prove it to them and beat that belt to ass every time that I see them. But just also to cover a little bit of the AFC North matchup from this week, what impressed me most about Aaron Rodgers is just at this stage in his career, the efficiency. Um, Unfortunate to have the 2 turnovers, and I think if just one of those doesn't happen, the game goes in the other direction, like you were saying, and it's a great Steelers win. I think it was just a shootout between the two unks, and realistically, looking at what Joe Flacco has on hand with Jamar Chase and T Higgins, just has a little bit more artillery, and I think that's what cut them through in the end. And Jamar Chase having every single one of his 16 catches all be under 20 yards, to Quay's point, really just softened up the defense for some of the bigger plays that happened with T. Higgins and the other receivers. So I thought it was just a really good balanced attack, and Flacco put on a masterclass that kind of overshadows what Rodgers did, but for him to have 250 yards, 23 completions, and 4 touchdowns off of that. That to me that's as efficient as you can get. And just game management is there. Unfortunate loss, but I think they're still in a good position in the division and really going to be able to control their destiny in terms of winning out those close matchups. The Ravens look like, they're really struggling. The Browns, for whatever reason, just wanted to throw a wrench in the division and say, like, hey, we'll give Joe Flacco to the Bengals, keep things tight. So if we win a few games, then we're back in it. I really am sure that's probably what Tomlin is thinking in his head, like, all right, fuck the Browns after that. But then looking ahead into the matchup for this week, I think the Steelers really have exactly what it takes to, compete with the Packers. And I'm expecting a real special game from Aaron Rodgers. It's also prime time. He's built for those moments. And yeah, I think he especially is going to probably, have picked apart, studied film extra hard. Any of the guys that he knows on the team that he knows their weaknesses, he's going to exploit. Um, Aaron Rodgers strikes me as that type of a guy. So I'm excited to see what type of pettiness he has built up, and I think he'll show it through his play, but will be classy in referring to the organization. But the ultimate disrespect would be dropping touchdowns on their head.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I
the
can
Steelers
see.
definitely need that. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely can see him being a little petty for sure on the inside. Because it's Aaron Rodgers. He definitely is going to use that as an extra motivator for the game for sure. And I think also being able to face Jordan Love again, he'll probably use that as a motivator as well too, seeing that this was the quarterback that superseded, that was going to be his going to be his successor. So it's just like, okay, he's done well, but he hasn't really taken him to the heights that I've taken him. So again, Aaron Rodgers using that pettiness to maybe say, oh, maybe I should have been able to stay around, or maybe we could have gone a little bit further. But I think this is a really good. I think this is a really good Green Bay Packers team. I think they're going to be desperate for a win. It's going to be nice to see the Jordan Love A-Rod matchup. Also seeing the TJ Micah matchup. See how that goes. This should be a fun Sunday night game. I don't think it's going to be crazy high scoring like the Thursday night game. I think it's going to be a very close game, and it's going to come down to a team that doesn't make a mistake. And I think just something that's been Jordan Love's issue is he can make that key crucial mistake at times. And to your point, Randy, Aaron Rodgers has been super efficient. The two picks like the other night, very uncharacteristic. Maybe one of those actually happens. The other one wouldn't have happened if it was more secure catch by DK and all the stuff that happened with that one. But I think again, Aaron Rodgers is going to make those key mistakes when it comes time, and I think the Steelers can pull out a Sunday night victory to get back on track. Like I said, close scoring game, something akin to 24-20, and I'm going to go the Steelers.
Yeah, I see Aaron Rodgers going up on his former team. We saw it week 1 against the Jets, elevating his play in order to win the game. But the difference between that game and this game is that the defense showed up when it mattered most. You remember the Jalen Ramsey hit at the end of the game on Garrett Wilson. We don't have the same effect here against the Bengals in Cincinnati. But maybe that's the levels in it, right? We're talking about Jamar Chase, who, triple crown type of guy, is going to be arguably number 1 or number 2 in any given year for this peak in his era right now. It's him, and for him to be able to do that without Joe Burrow and insert Joe Flacco. But Flacco is a vet. He's a Super Bowl champ. He knows where to go with the ball. He saw what the Steelers gave you, and it's akin to, those gamers out there playing Madden when the defense is just in its shell and it's just not moving out of the play, and you could just hot route into that slant and hit it every time, and that's what it felt like. The slant or the drag across that was also a big game, and there's that screenshot online that you see of Jamar Chase by himself, and there's no one else there. I think that kind of sums up the performance that they had there against the Bengals. And moving over to before I wanted to actually show the clip of Mike Tomlin talking about Joe Flacco here. So
because it doesn't make sense to me to trade a quarterback that you think enough of to make your opening day starter to a division opponent that's hurting in that area. But that's just my personal feelings.
no, that's what Coach said. So what were the Browns thinking? I guess from their standpoint, they had these young quarterbacks. They were thinking about the future, and I think as an organization, that this year you're not really aspiring to win the Super Bowl or anything. So to kind of invest that time and development into those players like Gabriel and maybe Shador might be wise. So I understand that, but it makes you wonder, like, why didn't it work with Joe Flacco? And it shows you kids that you go one team, go to a different team, you can get different results. And you also see it with all these other players like the Baker Mayfields of the world, the Sam Darnolds of the world. Where you go really makes the difference there. But like I said, I think the Steelers are going to beat the Packers here on Sunday night. I think it'll be one of those games where it's going to be like a trademark win of the season. I think it might be, or maybe similar to what we saw with the Commanders game last season, where it felt like, oh man, this team is peaking. But unfortunately, that was only the peak. But we'll see. I think Aaron Rodgers has a lot left in the gas tank. Another thing I wanted to call out was the Broderick Jones, who has been kind of the bad guy in Pittsburgh, letting up a lot of sacks, especially earlier in the year. He's really kind of flipped and the switch, and he's playing at a very, I would say, adequate level. I don't want to say it's high or elite yet, but it's definitely promising. And I think a lot of it has to do with how Arthur Smith is throwing a bunch of bodies at the sides that have the star players. So I think the offense is developing in the right track. I think the defense is also something that I think this team is going to actually figure it out. I think the issue with last season was it didn't have the right players in the right spots. I think this season we have the right players in the right spots. It's just I think Terrell Austin needs to figure out those in-game adjustments, and I think a lot of that maybe needs to be put on Tomlin too for not kind of stepping in and being, taking over or doing what it needs to do to make sure his defensive coordinator is not blowing those big plays at the end of the game. I expect this team to flip the switch and turn it on. We've seen it against the Patriots, who have been putting up points, and they were able to make big plays. This defense is predicated on splash plays and sacks. That's something that they did not get against the Bengals. They had an early 10-0 lead right before the DK circus fumble interception happened. So who knows what would have happened if he caught that ball and they kick a field goal, or maybe they even score a touchdown and the game is 17-0, or maybe it's 13-0. So I think there's a lot of potential left. I don't think this is a team that's seen its peak and there's really nowhere else it can go. I think there are good things, and when you have Chris Boswell as your kicker, I think the Steelers fans wouldn't panic too much about this team. Let's see what happens, especially when we get into some of those divisional games. Let's pivot over to our other team, the Washington Commanders, who also suffered a loss to a divisional opponent. And Randy, we'll push it over to you. What were your thoughts about what happened against the Cowboys, who right now, at least offensively, look like one of the best teams in the league? And I think Dakota, Dak Prescott, might be one of those MVP candidates. But how is it over there in the DMV? Jane Daniel suffering that hamstring injury, and then Mariota throwing that pick six to kind of just blow the game open. What are your thoughts on the Commanders and their chances here to win the division after this divisional loss?
Yeah, it's definitely feeling glum. Insert the Wolverine looking at the picture frame meme. This is how we're thinking about last season versus this season, 8 weeks into the 2025 season. Um, I'm happy that, Jaden was able to make a quick recovery, and I'm hoping that this hamstring injury is something that can be mended. It's got to also be something that we watch. Hamstring is something that, can be a nagging injury. But I think if it's managed, he should still be able to perform throughout the season. And maybe we're gonna have to tailor our game plan also to protect him in that sense, and focus more on pocket passing where he doesn't have to be as explosive from the backfield and run for his life. And that's what could aggravate that type of injury. But otherwise, I think if we can keep him upright and keep him in a pocket for, 80% of the plays, then he should be able to, continue to ride out the season. I do, at this point at 3-4, the season's hopes are still alive, but we are 1-3 in the division. And I think we really just need to be careful these next few weeks with our personnel. We've been really banged up. Jaden also not having Debo, not having Scary Terry, and then a rookie 7th round running back in the backfield with you. This is the type of performances that you're going to get out of a team like that. I think we really looked like that type of a team. All credit to the Cowboys and their offense for really just smoking our boots. And I think, our defense continues to really leak and give up too many points. And what we saw in this case was just our offensive output, with all the hobbled by injuries, not being able to keep up with that firing rate. And I don't think Dallas's defense, was really posing much of a threat. It was more of our team just not stepping up to the plate. The next man up, really dropping off from the quality that we're used to seeing from this team. And I think that's the difference between this year and last year when I look at it. And I've also mentioned in the past that last year we clutched out a lot of close games. We had a lot of lucky things work in our favor. in those close matchups. This year we lose to the Bears and then we go to Dallas the following week and get smoked with a ton of injuries. And that's the difference between, being at a team that's 5-2 or a team that's 3-4. But I think, we've got some crucial weeks up ahead. Schedule doesn't get any easier. And we've really just got to lock it together. And guess what? Go visit Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in Kansas City. So,
Tough match.
and that's another team that is starting to find their traction. And they had some misfortune earlier in the season that they want to rectify. So I hope that we get at least Debo back next week. With Jaden, I think we're going to have to just play like week by week, make sure that he's okay. Not put him at risk for games that, we can win otherwise if we perform and our defense can actually help prevent teams from scoring. I think if our defense isn't doing that, there's no point in trotting out the future of our franchise just to get slaughtered in a game where our defense isn't even giving them a chance to win. But that's where I'm at. It's not where I wanted to be at this point in the season. And once the Eagles drop that game to the Giants, we talk about the AFC North and how competitive it is. NFC East is not always as competitive, but within the division, it's always a coin toss when those divisional games come up. Washington, at its worst, has played spoiler to many a Cowboy seasons. But this year, all four teams really do look like they have a shot at the division at this point in the season. So it'll be interesting to see the rematch of Giants and the Eagles. And Washington's really got to start stringing together some of these wins. We've got a while until our next NFC East matchup, which will be against the Giants on December 14th. And then the Eagles and the Cowboys and the Eagles to close out the season with 4 divisional games. So I think if we hit our stride by the time we get there, we can put ourselves in a position to, if we win out those last 4 games in division, take control of a playoff spot.
Yeah, it's I won't say that I'm super worried about you guys. I just think it's one of those things where you're banged up, like you mentioned. Don't have your offense out there at all. Like before Jaden went down, I mean, Zach Ertz is like the only one that is, a consistent like starter on offense. Luke McCaffrey had to step up and, couldn't step up because I don't think he's that dynamic yet as a receiver. Maybe he doesn't ever become that. But it it was a rough showing it was a rough showing just because of all the injuries, more so than, you guys being a bad team. I do sometimes worry about the defense being able to stop guys like throughout the season, but this is a very hot Dallas Cowboys offense right now. We just got CeeDee Lamb back. George Pickens was on a tear while he was hurt and barely had any drop off once this man came back. Didn't have over 100 yards, but had roughly 90 yards and a really two big catches during the game. So um, those division matchups are always the ones where they're going to be very tight. They could be pretty competitive, or they can be blowouts because you know each other so well. Just kind of really depends on what goes on and how certain things kind of arrive or reveal themselves during or before the game, such as, like I said, the injuries to the team. I just think it really took any chance away from beating Dallas. So
I'm like, at least give me Noah Brown back. Like, damn, can I
no,
get something?
exactly. When Noah Brown, I mean, during his days with the Texans, like when he has needed to be called upon, like the dude he's a monster. I'm surprised he's not utilized a little bit more. But
Yeah, and
oh
if you
man,
know
if he
that's one of his favorite targets. Especially last year, they had a lot of big plays together. So I think that is missing too. And then Noah only plays better when there are Terry and Debo ahead
Other
of him,
threats. Yep.
because it just opens things up for him. So I think we're really missing that dynamic on offense. And then we also talked about like a few episodes back, Eckler going down was really like the
Yeah.
first dominant.
That was a big loss.
I think
He
having
added a
that
lot of change
veteran
of pace
back,
to the offense.
because a veteran back with Bill, I think, is the perfect like way to bring him on board and make him the workhorse. But now that, as a rookie, to really have the running game thrust on your shoulders it's tough.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think this season's over for you guys by any means. I mean, it's going to be tough going against Kansas City with the fact they're hitting their stride, as you mentioned. So,
Yeah. I
I think
mean,
you guys will be good as the team just gets healthier. So I don't think the season's in trouble, but got to be careful with Jaden, and Jaden is going to be the reason why you guys get to the playoffs. So sooner you can get him back healthy and get those other pieces back, I think the season will be good. And your division's always very open, so you should be fine. I don't think this is like the end, or you guys should be super worried or anything.
yeah. I mean, that definitely. I mean, that's how those divisional round games go. So, I mean, let's talk a little bit about Mahomes and what they did this week. I mean, they blew out their divisional opponent, right? They showed how to really handle it. Like Mahomes and Andy Reid, they put them in a coffin. Those poor Las Vegas Raiders.
Put him in a
Um,
coffin.
the Colts 6-1. Best record in the league. Other interesting things that happened this week. The Bo Nix comeback. Talking about another divisional opponent, the New York Giants, divisional opponent to the Washington Commanders. They lost a big lead, and the Broncos came back 19-point comeback in the fourth quarter. I think if I'm not mistaken, it's the largest comeback ever in the fourth quarter. Uh, Crazy game. Bo Nix, put team on his back. Uh, Other things that come to mind: Jalen Hurts throwing the ball and slanging it. I think he had a perfect passer rating. Speaking of the other NFC East team, so I think that whole division is just super tight. That AFC West division super tight. I think all of these divisional races. I think the only ones that we really see these big leads are, I think, maybe AFC South with like the Colts at 6-1. But I really do wonder, how that Colts team will travel later during the season. These indoor teams they play, fall weather, everything's perfect. But what happens when you can't sling the ball around like that? Playing against some of those teams like the Bills or playing against the Chiefs in Arrowhead. I wonder how they'll fare. But yeah, I mean, Quay, just to, I guess, pass the ball back to you. I mean, what were your thoughts on some of the things, or what were your kind of highlights of week 7?
Yeah, so just talk about the Colts. I mean, are the Colts like the best team in the NFL right now, just from top to bottom? Again, Daniel Jones was playing amazingly. Just you see him in New York with the Giants, and everyone's like, "This guy is washed. This guy's a bust. He's not the guy. He's going to be a journeyman backup quarterback." And he's been super successful. I mean, he's been the key reason outside of Jonathan Taylor for why this team has been winning games. But to your point, the team as a whole, I'm not too worried about Daniel Jones when winter time comes around because he, played in New York. He's used to slinging the ball around in the cold. But yeah, what about the rest of the year? Given Indianapolis does get a little chilly and those guys live there, so maybe that'll take away some of that curve. But I think the Colts right now show that they're probably the team to beat in the AFC. But the Chiefs, obviously, as they're catching their stride, they're going to be right there. So, but again, as you bring up the Chiefs there, catching that stride, really put down a division rival in a with the Raiders, who are really struggling. Maybe they need a quarterback change.
Rasheed Rice coming back
Obviously,
made a difference, I think.
Rasheed Rice was a big difference. He just opens up their offense in such a unique way with the way he can get yak yards after the catch for those who aren't familiar. Solid hands, great speed. It really just elevates the offense when he's out there. So congratulations to them. Eagles passing attack, really, really good. What's actually having me a little more worried about them is the fact that they can't really run the ball. I feel like
Yeah.
they should start to maybe lean into Jalen throwing the football. And maybe that will open up the running game a little bit more for them. I think teams are kind of more programmed and set to stop their running attack because Saquon is so good. And, Jalen, for all of his, winning and his ability, he definitely leans more into being a
Managed.
dual threat quarterback and game
Yep.
manager versus being that, oh, I'm going to carve you up throwing the ball 40, 50 times a game. Like, that's why he's never had a game like that. Sure, you could say, well, they never needed him to have a game like that. Yeah, that
Yeah.
could be true. But again, every quarterback in the league right now, if we looked up stats, I'm pretty sure every single one of them in their career has had a game where they've thrown the ball 40 to 50 plus times at least once. And I'm not saying he hasn't done it maybe at least once, but it's just those things where if you have to really think about it, yeah. So I think maybe they need to flip their philosophy and that'll help their team out. But they're still Super Bowl defending champions, and while they've been winning ugly, we'll see how long that lasts. But
I
Super
do want
Bowl
to
winning
talk
teams
about.
tend to find ways to win. So
I do want to talk a little bit more about that game. What I find, like, I don't know, something like strange about the Eagles' offense that, like, if you would have told me that they would have had a game where Devonta Smith and AJ Brown both have 100 plus yards, one of them having 150 plus yards, that they would only have scored 28 points and never more than one touchdown in a quarter. It seems like it's weird, like it doesn't add up. And like to Jalen Hurts' credit, it's like he heard everyone talking shit and was like, all right. And I'm sure the coaching staff was like, okay, we're gonna let you air it out. Like let's really like prove that you have this facet of your game. And I think it looked good. It was there, but for the game to be as close as it was, with the Vikings only scoring one touchdown, Carson Wentz throwing two interceptions, that to me is the part where it's like, that's concerning. That, and to your point, it was a poor running performance from them, and that's maybe where they can really start to stranglehold their opponents. But I think the fact that the Vikings were still in this game as late as they were, despite the offensive masterclass from their two-star receivers, is something that shows me it's like the Eagles have some sort of a chink in their armor. I can't exactly pinpoint what it is, whether it is the running game is going good and then everyone says they can't pass, but then they show us they can pass and the running game goes to shit, and they get a great win over a tough opponent, but they look beatable. And I think, from that Giants game, they needed a statement win like this, but we'll really see in this rematch against that Giants team like what the Eagles are made of. And let's see if they can air the ball out again. And will the game be that close? I wonder if it really is. I feel like although their defense only gave up one touchdown, they were allowing the Vikings to move down the field and get in field goal range consistently. And I feel like their Super Bowl winning defense wasn't giving up some of those drives, and maybe that's what it is. That's looking different about them this year.
no, I agree because that's the thing that no one's really talking about is that their defense from last year to this year is very different. Yeah, there's not like you could be like, oh no, but they have a lot of same names coming back. Yeah, but they're also missing like really big important names. Like the Steelers have Slay, and maybe they felt like Slay was a little older, past his prime and everything, so they didn't want to re-sign him. but veteran leadership there. He also knew the system, and he made big plays when, like last year with them. Maybe also was a guy you could communicate on the back end because he's seen it all. He's a 13-year vet, so he's seen it all. He's gone. You lose one of your linebackers, who's now TJ Edwards, who's now with the Bears, and he was a really good off linebacker next to Zach Bond. And Zach Bond is still there, and he's doing well. But I feel like they've lost these key guys in key positions, even like CJ Garner Johnson, he was on the team again and he made a big difference. And it was like him being gone as well. Like I do think the loss in certain positions on their back end, not that front four, because that front four is essentially the exact same and it's been the strength of that defense. But yeah, I don't think people are talking about like some of the key losses they've had, and that also probably being why they're not as dominant or look as if they're a team you should be scared of even as the season goes on. Like I said, they've gotten these wins and that's great, but yeah, we'll see how long that lasts with them. But just a couple of
Yeah.
things to round out that I was really excited about or wanting to question. I know people want to say Baker, had a rough game. And sure enough, he did. Same thing. He dealt with injuries that happened during the game. He doesn't have his best running back, just lost his top receiver in terms of consistency with. And also Godwin's being hurt. And, that's why shout out to Emeka Igbuka because he's been really stepping up, and Tez Johnson, guys who picked him up as a waiver wonder. He really paid off this week. So good job for that. But a quarterback that I'm actually really worried about is CJ Stroud. Just shout out Seattle's defense. They're doing really well, but I don't know if it's the O line. I don't know if it's the offensive scheme. But there's just something about CJ Stroud, more so this year than last year. I know last year he struggled as well, but there's something when you watch him, body language, even the way he looks in the face, like he does not look happy. He looks disinterested. He looks like he's on the verge of really like, yeah, kind of calling it quits. And I don't know what's going on in Houston when it comes to that. I know he's dealing with a lot of injuries on that offense as well, but I want to see that guy that we saw year one, where he had a lot of confidence and the offensive scheme was really well put together. So I don't know if it is because of the loss of the offensive coordinator, Christian Kirk, a new addition, being hurt, Tank Dell being lost for the season, and now Nico Collins is gone due to a concussion. I don't think it's gonna get any easier for this team. And then the Dolphins, same thing. Don't know if it's gonna get any easier for them. I don't know who's the problem there. If it's McDaniels, if Tua just needs to go. I've never been sold on him, so maybe they keep McDaniels and Tua goes. Not sure, but they're gonna have to figure out something. But yeah, there's some great stuff during week 8. I think there's nothing better though week 8 outside of that Giants and Broncos game. That comeback by the Broncos really, really good, which I think everyone thought most of that drama would have happened during the game. But we got some drama afterwards with Sean Payton taking a bit of a jab at Russell Wilson. I think that was not expected from a lot of people. And it's nice to see, though, that many people have been criticizing Sean Payton for even kind of jabbing at Russ. Seemed like a bit of a classless act and everything there. But that was like for me, out of all the things that happened this week, that was probably the biggest surprise where I'm like, yeah, there must be some real bad blood. We need to give these guys some boxing gloves, tell them to hash it out in the ring right now.
Yeah, Sean Payton has definitely got that petty in him, and I thought that win by them over the Giants was a case of out coaching really kicking in that close matchup.
There,
So we finally get the clip there.
coordinating Super Bowl first game in this stadium before 9/11. Close with the Mayor Tisch family.
And, they found a little spark with that quarterback.
Russ responded too with it, and he
I was
had
talking to
to
John here not too
hashtag
long
with
ago.
"Let's ride."
I said we were hoping that that change would have happened long after our game. I have a ton of respect.
Yeah, and the tweet, classless but not surprised. Didn't realize they're still bounty hunting 15 plus years later through the media. Hashtag let's ride.
With the bounty hunting.
It's hilarious. I mean, we got these are the matchups that are for week 8 up on the screen right now. And imagine if the Colts end up losing to the Tennessee Titans. 6-1, 1-6 feels like a trap game, doesn't it? I wonder what will happen there. Um, and yeah, I mean, we've covered basically every game out there. I mean, Chiefs Commanders, let's really see are Chiefs turning things around. I think they should beat the Commanders if the trend is where we're thinking it's going. But they could fall flat on their face too on Monday Night Football. We've seen teams, gain some steam, and then the next week they're not themselves. The opposing team, team that has lost its starting quarterback. I think Marcus will have a little bit more time to bounce back too, and have a game plan ready that facilitates all of his skills. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot at play here for Week 8 for the NFL. But I do think we should move on to our next sport, and that's NBA basketball. Um, just because we don't have too much time here. But any final thoughts about the NFL before we move on?
No, I think
Excited.
excited,
Need it all.
excited for week 8. Yeah.
Week 8, don't hate. All right. So yeah, let's move on to the NBA. And we had those opening night games against the Lakers and the Warriors. And we also saw a thriller between Houston and the Thunder, who end up introducing Kevin Durant as a Houston Rocket. So, what are your guys' thoughts there on some of those games that happened on opening night?
Yeah, no, I got to watch both of those games. I got to the Thunder um, Rockets game at probably like midway through the third quarter, um, and it was such a close game. It was such a close game, pretty much the entire game. Um, it was really interesting. I mean, the Rockets bringing out the tallest lineup in NBA history. No one was under 6'7" in that lineup. So really, really interesting. And honestly, more so due to circumstance. Fred VanVleet was hurt in the offseason, and they don't really have like a true backup point guard. Reed Shepherd is their backup point guard, but they didn't feel too confident to have him out there too much. But I think the length that they had out there was bothering the Thunder at times, where Shea couldn't get going early on, and then started to cook during the third quarter and even in the fourth quarter, which got them to come back, and it's the reason why we tied. Great exchanges in clutch moments. I mean, whether it was Shea, whether it was Chet, on the Thunder, whether it was like role players like a Cason Wallace. The Thunder were answering in the big moments. Same thing with the Rockets, whether it was a big moment and big play by Alperen Sengun, who one of the rising talents at center in the NBA. Whether it was KD hitting that patented mid range, whether it was Jabari Smith Jr. showing everyone why he deserves $30 million. Because I'm one of the people that thinks maybe he was slightly overpaid, maybe too overpaid. But he was making big plays, and Steve Adams getting like key rebounds when they needed it. This was a very fun opening game for the NBA season. I think anyone who tuned in couldn't couldn't ask for more. Um, Refs did miss certain calls, particularly KD's timeout when they had no timeouts, and that would have ended a really great game in the first overtime. But then we got blessed with the second overtime, so I'm glad refs missed it, and it was too late to even say anything about it. But man, talk about an opening first game with the Rockets and Thunder. I think the Rockets are going to have to figure out their shooting or their point guard issues if they're really going to be competitive and contenders this year. Just because you really saw it on the court. They had problems setting up their offense, ball handling problems. Because again, your point guard runs your offense, probably the best ball handler on the team. So that really, really shows. So it was very impressive, to be honest, that they were able to take the game into double overtime. But shout out to the Thunder, defending champs, the court, the fans. They were ready for that night, and they showed out for them. Lakers Warriors, classic matchup. Obviously, couldn't ask for anything more out of that game either, except for LeBron starting out with a sciatic nerve issue. Which, for those out there, since this is a sports show and I'm a guy who works with the body, for those out there who sit on their butts too often, whether you're in a car, you're at a desk, you streamer, I don't care what your job is, programmer, doesn't matter. If you are sitting down most of your day, please, please, please stretch your booty, stretch the glutes. You gotta make sure you don't end up like Braun with some
My
sciatic nerve
sciatica.
issues. In my sciatica, it will be it reverberates all down the leg. It's painful, debilitating. We don't want that. But that's probably the only thing we could have asked for when it comes to that opening night. But I think
Yeah.
Jimmy Buckets showing that he's super happy with the Warriors. Steph is just as good. He looks very fresh there. Um, Draymond being Draymond, getting texts in the first 7 minutes of the NBA season. But again, this is the NBA. We love the drama, we love the excitement. But Luca dropping a 40 burger. I think the future is going to be set there with him for the next few years, even once Braun is gone.
Yeah.
The role players stepped up very, very well too. So it's really nice to see that Lakers actually have a lot more on the team to really help the stars, Luca and LeBron, actually make some noise going forward. Oh, and can't forget about AR and Rui. Great, great role players too. They really helped out. But yeah, I think this team
Yeah.
has way more depth now to really help them get to the finals. So
Yeah.
I
AR.
think they'll get there.
I
But
think 100% in that Lakers game, we saw the balance that the Warriors have.
mhm.
Really, some new additions working out. To me, Jonathan Kuminga with 4 3-pointers,
Yes,
super
yes.
efficient, and that's a talent that we've been waiting to take a more prominent role in the offense, and really as a slashing winger. So to see him be able to have a
Hmm.
shooting performance like that bodes well for them this season, as Jimmy is kind of taking that space as a slasher and opening things up. I think it just really worked. Their offense being able to funnel through Draymond as a point forward is something
Hmm.
that's so unique. And like Draymond does, triple single is the joke, but that plus minus goes crazy.
It
And I think
does.
him with a plus 20 just really shows kind of like the effect that you don't see in other statistical categories from a player like a Draymond, and like how he's been able to sustain himself as he's aging in the NBA. His game has really evolved. And I think the way that they built that team for success for him and Steph as kind of two
Hmm.
centerpieces there, it's going to be really great to see that. Hope they can stay healthy throughout the season. The adding Al Horford, and having a deep roster with a player like Gary Payton II being able to come off the bench, add a spark plug. I think that they're actually in a really great spot. For the Lakers, What concerns me is one, DeAndre Ayton, first game, only 6 rebounds, just not enough for a center his size. Can't settle for that. I know Luka had 12 boards, but you still got to get your ass on the glass. To me, if you're DeAndre Ayton in 34 minutes, 6 rebounds,
Agreed.
just not enough. And the Lakers free throw woes. I think game is much closer. They shoot as a team 60% from the line. I'm looking at Luka, looking at Austin Reeves, 70% from
Yeah,
both
Luka
of them.
missed big free throws. Yeah, he had
That
missed key free throws.
that to me was them kind of throwing away the game right there. Despite not having Braun, I think that it should have been much closer. Austin Reeves with the ball in his hand a little bit more, also with 5 turnovers. He's got to be a little bit more careful there. With LeBron in the game, I think we don't see those 5 turnovers, but they might not have LeBron at all games throughout the season. This is a 40-year-old Braun. He's gonna need some load management throughout the season. So that is where Luka and AR will have to carry the team. And I wonder if they're capable with this current roster of doing that. I think DeAndre Ayton needs to lift a little bit more of the load. But
Yeah.
again, game one of the season. So interested to see where the rest of this goes. As a Wizards fan, I'm not too interested in how my team's going to perform throughout the season. We've got a young squad. Our front office does not care about success. So I'm really just looking to see what talent develops for us there. But I'm excited to see all the other storylines across the league.
Yeah, I mean the Lakers were it was close at halftime, so I think there was a 19-4 run in the third quarter that
Mm-hmm.
really helped them pull it away. And talking about free throws, I believe Jimmy Butler was immaculate there at the free throw line. And at the end of the day, those gimme points are the difference between winning and losing.
Yeah.
Um, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, some other recaps of the games that happened. Tyrese Maxey, 40 points. They had a 10-point fourth quarter deficit. Uh, Victor and the Spurs, Wembanyama. Yeah, he's been traveling the world. We've seen the videos
Tibetan
online of him
monks.
being a monk. So
So
it's
sad.
interesting to
He was
see,
Batman.
yeah, where he goes this season. Knicks win their home opener. Looks like Magic won against the Heat. Hornets won big against the Nets. So yeah, lots of storylines, and we're excited to kind of sprinkle in that NBA. It's been an NFL dominant couple of episodes this season, but that's how it always is to start off. Now we got some other things to talk about, but we'll pivot back over to the NFL and Black Belly's waiver wonders. Why don't you go ahead, take it away, Quay?
Welcome, guys. It's that time. Black Belly Waiver Wonder picks are in. As the season goes on, these waiver wonders, they start to dwindle. And I might always call back to old picks, but we have some new ones this week. We have 4 solid picks for you this week. So I hope you guys are excited, whether it's a quarterback, receiver, or tight end. If that's what you need this week. We got some great waiver pickups for this week. So let's start here with Black Belly's priority pick of the week, and that is Oronde Gadsden, tight end for the LA Chargers. In the past 2 weeks, he has had 7 receptions in both games, respectively, off of 8 and 9 targets, 68 yards last week or 2 weeks ago, 164 yards and a touchdown this past week. That is a combined 41.2 fantasy points the past 2 weeks. He is getting more involved in the offense. This Chargers offense is hurt when it comes to their running attack, which means they are passing the ball more. Their defense is struggling a little bit, so teams have been more competitive. So they have to respond on offense, and a lot of guys are getting the ball. So Oronde Gadsden has stepped up the past 2 weeks because of this. He was owned in just 3% of leagues. Just this week, he has gone up 50%. So he is now owned in 53% of leagues. That means people are catching on. They are seeing a trend. And especially like with bye weeks coming up, tight ends being hurt, different injuries popping up. This is a really good one, a really good pick. I don't think these trends in the past 2 weeks are anything to sleep on. I think this is something that's going to be here to stay. So for him, priority pick of the week, whether you need a tight end to start this week, just as a spot start, or you need a good tight end for the rest of the year, he is the tight end to play. Thursday night against the Vikings. It is a matchup where the Vikings do tend to cover tight ends pretty well. However, they did give up a really big game to they did give up a really big game to the Eagles in terms of the passing attack, which means they are susceptible to giving up a lot of yards. And with them maybe wanting to focus more on the likes of a Lad McConkey, a Keenan Allen, and even the emerging Quentin Johnson, he is going to have his opportunities. So again, for those reasons, Rondé Gadsden is Black Belly's priority pick of the week. Number 2, we are going to mention wide receiver Darnell Mooney. Had missed the past couple of weeks due to injury. And coming back this past game, 3 receptions, 68 yards, just off of 5 targets. However, he is the wide receiver too. And in a lot of cases, this will be a team that will have to play from behind or be in competitive games. And when healthy, Darnell Mooney was one of the best wide receiver twos of last year. And with a plus matchup against the Dolphins, especially with a lot of receivers on bye week this week. Great addition to have for the team. And I do think whether you need him just for this week or to have as depth for the position, it's a great pick to have. So again, Darnell Mooney, wide receiver for the Falcons. Now we're going to move on to the next pick here, number 3, Jalen Noel, Texans wide receiver. As I mentioned earlier in the show, Nico Collins is going to miss next week with a concussion. More than likely, Christian Kirk is going to be out again due to his hamstring injury. That means these young Texans tight ends are going to have to step up. I can mention Xavier Hutchinson. I can also mention Jaden Higgins as well. If pretty much any of these Texan receivers, if you need a receiver for the week. However, Jalen Noel gets the pick here because he had 4 receptions, 77 yards. He was the guy that CJ Stroud started to look at once he lost Nico. He had a touchdown back in week 5, and that was kind of the start of more of his ascension in the eyes of CJ Stroud. He tends to trust him, seems to trust him a lot. And out of those other two receivers, with Hutchinson and Higgins, like I said, Noel is the one that has stood out the most and will likely receive the front of the targets. And with this Houston team needing offense, especially going up against a tough 49ers team in defense, he's going to have plays and he's going to have opportunities to make plays. So again, Jalen Noel, if you need a receiver to start for the week, he is definitely an option to have, and even maybe an option to keep to have as a potential flex later on in the season. And last but not least, the winner of the geriatric / Unk Bowl, Joe Flacco. Due to his performance against the Steelers Thursday night, I don't think this is something you could ignore. Even the week before, 3 days, I think it was something like that. 3 days, fresh on the team. He went out there and made and had 18.76 fantasy points. Obviously, they lost the game against the Packers, but you can see how that offense started to click. Then you really saw that offense in high gear against the Steelers last Thursday night. And he put up 342 yards and 3 touchdowns, so 26.98 points. really, really well, clean performance. I don't think this is something that is going to be a fluke. This is going to be very reminiscent to when Joe Flacco was first back off the couch with the Browns, and he brought the Browns to a wild card appearance. I don't think it's far fetched to say it's going to be something similar. To see if the Bengals actually do make a wild card, we'll have to see that. But in terms of the team being better and the offense moving and functioning better because of his presence, um, is why I say he is a pick for Black Belly's waiver wonders this week. And whether that is to start this week because you have a quarterback that's on bye, you want a backup quarterback just in case, or you may be struggling with the quarterback position and you need more consistent play. Joe Flacco, the winner of the Geriatric Bowl this past Thursday, is available, and I would go get him with the likes of T. Higgins and Jamar Chase on the outside to throw to, and you got guys like Ioshiva and Chase Brown out the backfield. Yeah, all Joe Flacco has to do is not make any mistakes. But it seems like the key to success for the Bengals is to have a quarterback named Joe. That just seems to be the recipe for winning. So again, Joe Flacco, the final Black Belly waiver wonder pick of the week, and honestly, probably the second closest to being the priority of the week. If it wasn't for Oronde Gaskin having such a great past 2 weeks, but I hope those picks were really. I hope those picks are available for you guys in your respective leagues, because if they are, go ahead and reach out for them. Again, as I always say, do not be mad at Black Belly if these picks do not pan out for you. Again, I do research, try to give you the best picks available at any given time. And, NFL teams are NFL teams. They scheme up, they know what defenses seemingly want to do and want to take away. So just because a guy did great the past 2 weeks and they're hot on the waiver wonder pickups, doesn't mean they're going to do good the week you pick them up. It's just the way the cookie can crumble sometimes. But as always, I do hope you enjoy this, and it's always fun to give you guys picks for the week. It's, like I said, it's my favorite segment. And again, good luck. I need to get a win, so I hope you get a win as well.
Yeah, well, thank you, Black Belichick. Quay, always a pleasure having your exclusive segment here. And this season, I mean, we've been having exclusive topics. And let's move over to Arlo Vision and his international footy recap.
Yes, sir. All right. Diving in, we mentioned on previous shows that the 2026 FIFA World Cup is fast approaching. This week, just want to focus on the African qualifiers. So there was 9 teams that were able to secure qualification for Africa, and 1 team that was able to secure a playoff spot. So your qualified teams are Egypt winning their group, Senegal, South Africa, Cape Verde. My familial heritage is proud for their first qualification in the World Cup. You've got Morocco, Cote d'Ivoire, Algeria, and Tunisia and Ghana to round out all of the African nations that have made it. Once again, the World Cup is also expanding in 2026 to its largest amount of teams ever, with 48 teams being able to qualify. And the remaining team that still has a chance from Africa is going to be Nigeria, who actually had a very disappointing group stage run, losing out to South Africa by 1 point, but able to secure that playoff spot. So they still have a hope, but they will have to play off against teams from other regions to battle it out in a playoff structure for that spot. So they've still got a few games that they need to string together to make it 10 African nations in the World Cup. Cup, which would be awesome just to see and represent how much talent that these African countries do have, despite many of their some of their best available players playing for other nations in other regions, due to the dominance of European soccer and, of course, just colonialism, if you know about that in history, and how it's played a role in diaspora players being from one nation but living and playing in another. And jumping into the English Premier League, we had a big weekend back from international soccer after a 2-week break. In the Premier League, Arsenal has secured the first spot, and they're up by 3 points on Manchester City. Defending champions Liverpool had a stutter with a 2-1 defeat to my team, Manchester United, who is coming from 15th place, worst ever finish last year. And they've had a shaky start this year. So the win over Liverpool was a huge linchpin, their first win at Anfield in quite some time. So Liverpool's 4 losses in a row in the Premier League after a 5-0 start. Looks like they're a little shaky. They invested over 300 million pounds in transfer purchases and players this offseason. So we're seeing some of them not really gel out at the start of the season. I'm not too worried about Liverpool. I think aside from injuries, that their squad will start to gel a little bit more. And Manchester United, I think, is actually, tougher competition than folks are giving them credit for. They lost 1-0 to Arsenal, who are leading the league, and now they've beaten Liverpool 2-1. So I think United is actually more so proving that they belong in the conversation for top 4 this season, more than anything, and we'll see that over time pan out. And Liverpool, I think they just really need to find their footing again. And Mo Salah has really had a slow start to this season. And I think with it being a World Cup year, him leading that Egyptian squad, he's going to really want to find his form between October and June. And he's got plenty of time to do it. So I'm not too worried about that. I think he's getting adjusted with new teammates. I think Liverpool will bounce back, but they are losing traction on Arsenal, who really look like, after finishing in second place in back-to-back years, like they really want to claim that title this season. And Manchester City, who had a bad season last year, look like they're starting to regain some form. So should be an interesting title race over there across the pond in England, and I'll
And
be here to update y'all about it every time. So I'll go ahead and pass it on.
Yeah, appreciate the update. Grew up Arsenal Gunners fan, Thierry Henry, and the dominance that they had there in the 2000s. But yeah, we'll see what happens throughout the season. Uh, I'll
Gooners.
I'll transition over to my spiel, which has kind of also been a recurring topic as well, and that involves Sidney Crosby,
Linguino.
who on Tuesday, the Penguins, who are now 5-2, they had a 5-1 victory over the Canucks. The Canucks went up 1-0 early in the first period, and after that, it was all Penguins. Crosby scored his 4th goal of the season, which was actually his 1,896 career point, which officially moves Crosby in front of the Hall of Famer, the great Mario Lemieux. So now he's the point leader in Pittsburgh Penguins history. So congratulations to Sidney Crosby there. And also Chris Letang reached 600 career assists, becoming only the 10th defenseman in NHL history to achieve that with a single team. And Evgeny Malkin also got a point with an assist too. So the trio that I've been talking about, these old heads, they're still performing at a high level. The issue with last season was being able to keep up with that throughout the season, which is a lot, I think, to ask for a bunch of old people. It seems like this is the year where the Unks are coming back and trying to be on their last hurrah, whether we're here talking about the NHL or we're talking about the NFL or even the NBA with LeBron James. So shouts to the old heads out there.
KD
Still,
and Steph older
That's all
too.
the
yeah,
unks. Let's go. We
All
still
the
got it.
unks.
yeah. So yeah, that's it for me. Yeah, let's go Pens. So yeah, I'll take it over to Quay to close us off with his spiel. So take it away, man.
Alrighty. So I guess the spiel, I mean, I'm coming at it from you could say like a male point of view here. But just for this can apply for honestly anyone. Doesn't really matter. Um, so we had a bit of a later show for different reasons, but I feel like I started out making it become a later show tonight because I got called, well, I won't say called into work, but I had to go into work because I had a client. For those who don't know, I do stretch therapy. Had a client, which didn't really become a thing until 5 p.m. at 7 p.m. And I do not go into my job because policy says they don't really want you there unless you have clients. Mind you, I was supposed to start at 2 today. And the fact that I didn't have a client all day until 7 and I was just here, it kind of sucked because it's one of those you're kind of expecting, okay, well, the trend is going this way and all this. And then, you know, things happen, like just pops up and you got to handle business. So the reason why I say it as like a man, I do feel like it's one of those things where as you get older, so this is for the young ones out here. I'm your big bro right now, not in unk phase yet. I'm big bro. But it's for those youngins out there, you know, there's going to be moments for young men out there who do not want to do something, and that can stem from a lot of things, whether it's working out, whether it's going to work because you feel like this job is a little bit beneath you, or you are meant for more, meant for better, and all this stuff. Life is not that simple, and if we could always just quit and restart, everyone would do it, but then nothing would ever truly get done. Um, part of life is doing the things we don't always want to do, and I think to a certain extent just life as a whole. Like I said, this doesn't just stem to like men, but as a whole, I think we've gotten a little comfortable in this idea that we can put off certain things and, oh, this thing happening is an inconvenience. And maybe it could be an inconvenience. However, that doesn't mean we just drop everything and complain. Like we literally tie our shoes, one foot in front of the other, and go handle business. And also, you may find out things will happen for a reason. You might feel as though, like, okay, I did this thing and something so great came out of it. You're like, the mundane, I just did the mundane over. But when you did that mundane thing over, you probably end up having like a breakthrough in that one moment. With me having just this one client, I go there, I made a forever client and, ended up getting a nice tip for showing up for her because she was very appreciative and also felt for me that I had to come in just literally for her. And it's nighttime and it's dark as I'm driving out. So, that felt really good too. But all in all, I say that to say again, life is going to have a lot of things come at you that you do not want to do. And, I think it's always more of a benefit for us, and it's way more beneficial when we do those things. Because I also think it helps us appreciate more of the things we want to spend more time on, or help us appreciate those moments where we get to kind of have our own space and we don't have to worry about doing things for others or doing something that could be considered quote unquote hard because maybe we just want to, relax and be in our comfort zone. But we're not going to always be in our comfort zone in life. And that's the best way we can grow is when we go out of our comfort zone. And so, yeah, for those who are out there, you feel as though sometimes you're like, it's hard. I don't feel like doing it. I don't want to do it. Know that that is probably 90% of people in the world. And that, the world has had the best advancements and growth because we didn't quit or give up. So, yeah, don't quit, don't give up, do what you got to do when those moments come. For me, to kind of help it, to kind of help me when those moments come and I get a little frustrated, I turn on some good music, that like kind of gets me out of that. Or, I think more about the positive where I'm like, you know what? Yeah, no, this is good. Like, I have a job, there's people who are struggling to have a job. So it's like, I got a job, I'm going to go handle it. It is what it is. So, again, I hope that helps you guys, whether you're struggling just to move forward. I hope this message gets to you and helps you do what you got to do and move forward. And one last little bit attached to it because I mentioned something as fun, it's a little hilarious, about LeBron and his sciatic nerve, and I'm going to make that a bit of a, football thing too. It is going to be National Tight Ends Day this weekend coming up. So shout out to all the tight ends out there. Don't have a tight end in real life. If your end's a little too tight, please stretch so you don't get that sciatic nerve issue like LeBron. You want to make sure you stay loose as a goose. But shout out to all the tight ends in the NFL there. It's a position that has really evolved over the years. It went from being a glorified lineman to now they're essentially receivers. I mean, they're receivers that can block on the line of scrimmage. So, and it's opened up offenses in a very unique way. It has made defense, have to adapt and account for guys who are 6'4", 6'5", 250, and can run and move as if, they're receivers. So shout out to the tight ends. I hope you feast and eat very well this weekend. Get some touchdowns, get some yardage. That's why Oronde Gadsden was the priority pick this week. Your tight ends are going to eat. I promise you guys.
Yeah, let's hope the tight ends eat. It's definitely been a dry year for some of these fantasy teams, and the drop off on tight end, as always, atrocious, right? So, that's it
Shout out to all
for
the loose ends too.
well. Well, that's it for our show. This was season 6, episode 7 of the Spiel Sports Talk Show. I hope everyone enjoyed listening to us talk. If you did, like and subscribe to the Spiel Sports Talk Show on Spotify and on YouTube. And until next time, thanks a lot to my panelists, Randy, Quai. Always a pleasure. It's Sal. It's a Muslim. Signing off. We'll see you next time. Good night, everyone.
Good night, guys.